I just want to take this time to thank everyone for the opportunity to come and speak on a topic that I am so passionate about. And so I just like to talk about how I started my journey. I started my journey as a pianist in the 5th grade, and shortly thereafter started writing music. And I didn't come into music like the average kid that you may know, being forced to go to lessons that they didn't enjoy and not being able to have fun. My journey started when a random YouTube video popped up across my screen. It was the Sonata Pathétique by Beethoven. And I remember just saying, why not? I'll give it a listen. And that's when it all started. And that's when my love of music truly started. And ever since then, every piece of music I've come across is a whole new why not. With every new song I listened to, it was like a new window into a new world where such strong and powerful emotions could be expressed, even in the lack of words. And this journey, however, wasn't just a bed of roses. It wasn't just easy. It had come for me to come and study the dreaded music theory. And about 3 months into studying, I was learning with a saxophonist from Mahidol University. And with every exercise and every mistake I made, he made me eat dreaded melon-flavored chips, which even though I haven't had a lesson in almost 3 years, I still feel that the taste still lingers in my mouth. However, as I learned, I put every single piece of knowledge that I learned into action, writing my first ever song, if you could even call it that. It's a short 8-bar work titled Allegro, and having been inspired by a random tune that me and my friends were singing at one uneventful recess break. But yet, this is where my journey started. And as I played more and more music, started to listen to, I also started to write new forms of music. And one thing I realized is that music always has meaning and purpose. It's either to put people to sleep. I've heard my voice does somewhat of an excellent job, or to bid a friend farewell, or to act as an outlet for your sadness and frustration, or to impress a girl that you like. I've done all of this through my music, and especially that last one. However, it is because music has such a profound ability to express ideas, thoughts, and purpose that music is, and will continue to inspire and be a universal language for all of humanity. It has critiqued, inspired, and united, all with music as your voice. And just because music doesn't have lyrics doesn't mean it can't convey just as powerful of a message. Let's begin our journey in the 1940s with Dmitri Shostakovich. Now, doesn't this sound like a gleeful, whimsical, almost sarcastic little tune? Wouldn't you think, or wouldn't you be surprised that this was actually written to celebrate the Soviet victory against the Nazis in World War II? It sounds like my little march that I wrote back there. And what's surprising is that music sounded like this back during Soviet times. It's important to note 2 pieces of context that make this work so significant. Firstly is the curse of the ninth and the watchful eye of Stalin. So as a classical musician, every time I hear the words Ninth Symphony, I have this image that pops into my head, which some of you guys might agree with. And it's all thanks to one person, Beethoven. His Ninth Symphony, or the Ode to Joy, also the anthem for the European Union, was written on a poem that talked about the universal joy and brotherhood of man. And it was the grandest and biggest symphony of its day, coming at over an hour in length. And in the course of Beethoven writing his 10th symphony, he sadly passed away. And this was followed by a curious series of events where great composers, Bruckner, Dvorak, and Williams, all passed away after writing their 9th symphony. Even Mahler, the greatest symphonist of all time, having written symphonies that far passed the 1-hour mark, some reaching almost 2 hours, was so scared and so superstitious about the number 9 that what he wrote that was supposed to be his 9th symphony, he titled The Song of the Earth, or in German, Das Lied von der Erde. And what do all these symphonies have in common? They're massive, they're grand, and they move mountains. However, now let's imagine you're Shostakovich. You're the hottest name in music at the time, and you're the international darling. You've already wowed the world with your Fifth Symphony, a response to criticism after Stalin condemned your opera. Everyone expects your Ninth Symphony to be a blockbuster symphony, to be colossal, a symphony for the ages, to commemorate such a grand victory. A symphony that will make Mahler look like he was scribbling on a napkin. But what do? You write something funny. Instead, Shostakovich put something in his music that no one expected. It was light, it was playful, and it defied every expectation that the Soviet state had. But here's where Shostakovich's genius lies. While it might have seemed like a playful piece that had a gleeful or whimsical tone, it was actually a subtly mock of the pompous Soviet ideals of grandiosity that was currently being put. And this was a time where Shostakovich was also put under great scrutiny. The Soviet state was famous for punishing public figures who didn't toe the line. For example, Osip Mandelstam and Isaac Babel, who were imprisoned and put to death just for things that they did less. However, Shostakovich found ways to embed resistance into his music, and with his Ninth Symphony, he broke all cultural conventions. Let's take a look at some of the most cunning devices Shostakovich uses to get his point across. Let's listen to this short snippet where a basso trombone introduces a new piping tune in such an eager and self-important way every single time. Just like a regime eager to give a new message, trying to push a strong narrative, however unable to support their people. Followed by a high run on the winds, mockingly in the face of the trombone. That dumb little funfair becomes his own personal statement, and every single time when he comes in a recapitulation or the restatement of the main theme, he misses 6 times, trying to make a statement, but he comes in blatting in 6 times incorrectly. And this little restatement of the theme of ignorance is what makes this whole symphony so playful and so light. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4. That's 5. That's 6. And on the 7th time, now isn't that exciting? While Shostakovich and the great symphonies were never on the track list whenever I was going around on road trips, John Lennon's Imagine, however, was a staple and one that brought a powerful and profound message. Coming from a mixed family background, the music that I consumed as a child was also very varied, from my dad's favorite Chinese love songs and my mom's favorite rock and roll. It is because of this upbringing that the variety in music plays such a pivotal role in my life. And this song takes the idea of music as a universal language and dials it to the extreme. Released during the Vietnam War, it wasn't just a song, it was a manifesto for peace, for unity, and for hope. Lennon invites all to listen, as well as imagine a world without war, borders, or divisions. What made Imagine so influential, however, was its simplicity. The melody is simple, as well as the lyrics being straightforward. The song is accessible for anybody, and it quickly resonated deeply with those in the anti-war movement. It quickly became an anthem for peace, played all around the world, and decades later, its reach spanned far beyond its time. From memorials for the victims of terrorism to the 2003 Iraq War protests, and even the Syrian refugee camps, offering hope amidst despair. Now, although the lyrics carry the core message, the music itself adds layers. We're in the key of C major, which is often associated with purity and simplicity. We're about to go into a section that is slightly very technical, so I suggest you to put your safety goggles on. So let's listen. Notice how clear, how pure C major sounds. And let's notice how Lennon uses C major. So we're in the key of C major, key of home. At the start, we're moving towards 2 chords. We're moving between C and F. However, instead of using the bass notes of C and F together, Lennon uses a thing called a pedal note, where the notes stays the same, however the chords change on top. This brings a feeling of unstableness, which you can notice throughout the song, which brings into the introspective feel of this piece. However, one thing that he does as well is using a very closed voicing. As you can notice, if you play on a very open voicing, it feels expansive, open, extroverted. However, if you close it up, just like what Lennon did, now you can notice that it feels much more introverted, feels closed off. But now let's contrast with the bridge. The bridge takes away all those pedal notes and goes straight into strong bass. And not only does the lyrics also reflect this new change from introvertedness to extrovertedness, with the lyrics going from imagine all the people living for today, empowering an extroverted and powerful message. And now this soft shift from introspection to extrospection makes a bold call from in both the music as well as the lyrics. And this shows how Lennon masterfully uses and balances emotional depth with a universal dream inside of the song Imagine. The message doesn't just become a dream, but one of an invitation to act. And it's why it has remained one of the most powerful songs and one of the most powerful anthems for peace across the decades. Let's listen to some of this in action.
No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today.
And now we move on to our last example. Now, arguably the most socially impactful form of music in our modern day and age is hip hop and rap. And though not something I grew up listening to very often, it's an art form that I've come to love more and more as time goes on. And while the genre of rap itself is full of incredibly powerful songs, one song that embodies the spirit of empowerment the best is Kendrick Lamar's All Right, speaking directly to the community enduring those very divisions, systemic racism, police violence, and generational trauma. The song became an anthem for the Black Lives Matter movement and rallying voices across America. The beat of All Right is produced by Pharrell Williams and plays a crucial role in the song's tone. The rhythm is syncopated with a bouncy feel that gives the song a very upbeat tone. However, it contrasts with its heavy subject matter.
All's my life I has to fight. All's my life I hard times like yeah, bad trips like yeah. Nazareth, I'm f***ed up, homie, you f***ed up. But if God got us, then we gon' be alright. We gon' be alright.
Pharrell Williams himself described the track as inspired by the ancestors speaking through the music itself, a track from the Black experience of oppression and resilience, and where music became both a way to endure and a way to resist. The opening lines of the chorus became an anthem for modern-day resistance. At a first glance, the lyrics may seem simple, but the power of it comes in the context of Black history in America, from slavery to Jim Crow laws and systemic oppression and police brutality. Black Americans have long faced these issues. However, Lamar's repetition of the phrase mirrors the chants from the protests during the civil rights movement, where repeated slogans like "we shall overcome" offered hope in the face of violence and segregation. One key phrase stands out in this entire song.
You know, we've been hurt, been down before. When our pride was low.
It isn't about just individual pain. It's a reflection of one of the historical trauma the Black community has carried for centuries. From the Middle Passage to present-day police brutality, Lamar acknowledges the deep scars of history. but immediately follows it with the refrain that we're gonna be all right. It's a declaration of endurance and a message despite the ongoing struggles, the Black community will continue to rise. All Right became a chant, a symbol of hope and defiance. The song was performed at the 2015 BET Awards, where Lamar stood on top of a vandalized police car, amplifying the message where people being strong and against a system that seeks to oppress. The performance became iconic, and the song not only performed or played, but it was chanted live at protests and events and became part of the cultural lexicon of the movement. It echoed from the streets from Ferguson to Minneapolis, where protests erupted and after the deaths of Black Americans at the hands of police. It also reflects a larger cultural shift of how hip-hop music itself evolved as a platform for activism. And much like Public Enemy or Tupac before him, Kendrick Lamar uses the genre to confront issues of racism, inequality, and violence. The fact that the song has continued to resonate globally, chanted not just in the US, but at protests all around the world, has shown the universal appeal of its message, resilience in the face of oppression. So, throughout history, music has been far more than a means of entertainment. It has served as a powerful message, a tool to express what words cannot alone. From Shostakovich's subtle defiance to John Lennon's dream of a world of peace, and Kendrick Lamar's anthem of resilience for the Black Lives Matter movement. Music has continually empowered the voices of the silence, helping them speak truth to power. All artists, whether they're the most inexperienced or the stars of the world, have a melody or a message in their heart. I shared a little bit of myself in every work that I've done, but today I've shared a message that means so much to me. And as we come full circle, I'd like everyone to think about music in their lives. Do you see how it brings people together? How it sheds light on the most sensitive topics, or provides us with a bright dream for a better future, or makes you want to fall asleep. Thank you, everyone.